I wasn't getting out. So I thought, okay, well, was this chip bad? And you can, unfortunately, it's hard to get to the thing. So I pulled the heat sink off of it. There's two little screws right here. I undo those two screws, pull the heat sink off, then I could get to the output. And then I put my speaker on the output, and it was there. It certainly was there, because when it tried to send that sound, this poor little speaker, boy, it was doing its work. It was screaming. So, okay, so now I know that we have power coming out of the audio amp, and we're getting sounds out of the audio amp, but it wasn't getting to the speakers. Now, prior to that, I had already checked and said, was the speakers bad? I put my multimeter, there's a multimeter on the volume adjustment here. There's also a volume adjustment on the coin door, down here on the coin door. I also put my multimeter on that and on the speakers, and everything seemed to be on and out right. Everything's had the right things. The volume adjustments would adjust, but I still wasn't getting sound. But at that point, I knew I was outputting sound because I could catch it at the very final points before it jumps out. So I knew there was sound going out. So it was like, all right. So now what we do? So then what we did was I started tracing from the output point here, all the way to the point where it enters the volume adjustment on the coin door. And I wasn't getting continuity. So I was looking for continuity. It should have just been one straight run all the way through, and it wasn't getting continuity. And it runs through at least 2 plugs before it gets to the coin door. So now it's a matter of moving. I connected my, I used an alligator clip to my my volume adjustment on the coin door, and then I just went down the list, down the wires, trying to find where I lost continuity. Well, the wire bundle that goes from the coin door to a plug on the inside, because there's a lot of different things it ties into, I determined that the problem was in there. And as I pulled the wires out, I eventually found a section of wire. I got it down to a section of wire about that long. And I was done connecting it. I cut them off, put in a new set of wire, boom, we had sound. So now we have sound that was getting there. So kind of had sound. So the board would generate full sound. I pushed a little button and I would get full sound. It would go through its sound test, and it would test every sound it has. Probably 10 or 12 sounds, something like that. So it tests every sound that it has. Actually, I think it has 16 sounds. Anyway, so it's got a bunch of different sounds, and they were working in when I pressed the test button. But when the game played, or when I put it in test mode to run the thing, it wasn't getting the sounds. So the next step was to go back, and this is, remember a while ago I said it was a convoluted way that they got they got sound from one to the other. Well, so the CPU, the MPU, they call it, master processor unit, whatever. The MPU generates a sound, and it says, hey, I need sound number 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. It's just a number. So it says, hey, I need sound number 3. Well, what it then does is it sends a signal from this board through this interconnect to this chip on the driver board. And then it comes out of that chip. And this is for the first 8 bits of the sound, okay? And it says, hey, it has 1, 2, 4, and 8. So 1, 2, 4, and 8 are on this chip. It says, hey, I need these sound sets. And it goes from there. Once it goes through that chip, it runs out the lines through this connector into this board to this chip over here, which is another 7404 chip that was an inverter that inverted that signals and then sent it to the processor saying, hey, I needed whatever number chip was. So it goes a long way. Now, that's 1, 2, 4, and 8 bits of the sound thing. There's also a 16 and a 32 that it does, but what it does on that one is, because there wasn't enough things in this to send down this solenoid to go through this one chip, it actually sent it as a lamp signal. It said like lamp number 16 or whatever lamp number it is. So it actually goes through the lamp signal. The lamp signal is then converted. It's then sent over to this as a higher voltage lamp signal. This board has devices that cut it down and make a regular signal out of it, then sends that to the processor as well. So it was a way that they could utilize some circuitry they already had without having to modify the soundboard too much to get past things. Now let's look at, we talk about bits, 1, 2, 4, 8, okay? So you think in bits, hexadecimal, binary, everything's either on or off, right? Well, you have 1, 2, 4, 8. So if you wanted sound number 1, you simply send a signal, positive or negative. You send a signal down wire number 1, and that's, you know, it knows, hey, sound number 1. If you want sound number 2, you send it down you send the signal down sound number 2. But if you want 3, remember I said 1, 2, 4? If you want 3, you send the signal down 1 and 2. Add those together, you get 3. You want 5, you send it down 4 and 1. You want 6, it's 4 and 2. You see how that works? That's binary, going up into the thing. So that way you can have 4 wires, 1, 2, 4, 8. 8, 4 is 12, is 2 is 14, and 1 is 15. You have 15 different sounds using 4 wires. Just a combination of those and how it works. And that's simple binary stuff. And that's how it works. Normally that would be how it would work, but then on all the wires, but numbers 16 and 32, they run through the light board because they run out of circuitry, I guess. Anyway, so then I started tracing. So what was happening is I would get some sounds, but not all of them. So I started trying to figure out which ones goes. And what I did then was, this board didn't have a ground test point, so I soldered in a little wire into a connection point right here at the top of this board. It gave me a place for a ground. Then I could connect my alligator clip on that, and now I have a ground point. Then I took that same little clip thing that I used to remove the pins out. I clipped my alligator clip on it, and now I have a really nice delicate thing. So what I could then do is go to this. So I looked at the schematics, and it said this chip, this 7404, was the first chip that received the signal from the other board, and it was receiving a ground signal. So I should be able to take this board, put it to the correct pin, 2, 4, 8, 6, and then it was like 11, 13, and 15. Touch those and get the sounds. And it did on some of them. It did it on the first 2, on 1 and 2, but sound number 4, when I touched it, didn't go anywhere. I went to the other side, sound number 8 wouldn't work, sound number 16 or whatever worked and things, and then the other one didn't work, but I don't think there's enough sounds. Anyway, so what I found was that I could get some through, but not all of them. That could have been a couple of different problems. It could have been a problem here. It could have been in continuity circuits to the other pins, because remember, these are just data lines going across. But the quickest, easiest thing to do, and these 7404s were known to fail, I pulled that chip out, put a socket in it to make it easier, put in a new 7404, and now I got all the sound. So everything works like she's supposed to. So now, that was the last bit that I needed to fix on the game, was to get that sound working. So now the game's up. It runs, it plays, it shows the high score, all the little lights work like they're supposed to. We were talking about the sounds a while ago. Here's a test button for the sound, and it'll make all these different sounds. Well, while the sounds are running through, and they got some really cool sounds. This is a great game. It's a lot of fun. So while the sounds are running through, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps you. The biggest thing to remember, if you go to buy a game, may not be as simple. We thought this was going to be a simple thing, and it's months and boards and $700 worth of work. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I did, working on it. But the game's great. It's worth it. Once you get them up and running, everything's great and it's fun. Later.